All right. Hey, welcome back to Unleash Your Purpose podcast, season 2. Guess what? I've upgraded my guests, and I am very honored that after many invites that our Chief Development Officer, Miss Mandy Lawson, has decided to join. Wow.
It's completely 100% my decision.
Yes. I put it on our calendar.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no asking involved. You need to quit asking.
Yes. She was involuntold.
Yes.
And today we are going to be sharing, we've had quite the summer. Sarah and I just got done filming a podcast about the changes at Ohana and kind of the necessary endings, I called it, and those parts of it. But at the same time, we've had a necessary ending of both of our baby for the last 2 years, which is Hannai Laveen.
It's true. I know you were told to narrow your focus, but it didn't have to be everything.
I know, exactly. People are always looking at me now like, what are you cutting out now? I go, I got out my samurai sword and I'm just kind of cutting
those branches.
Yes.
Pruning season. It
is definitely a pruning season. There's this internal conversations and jokes and that a mentor friend of mine said, hey, Ryan, I love you, but I feel like I need to tell you something. He says, sometimes you have to narrow your focus to broaden your impact. I had all these different business ventures and they were so fun and exciting. But Mandy and I worked really hand in hand as she does all the things development, which means any new fun, exciting business or project and helps get everything up and going, develops the staff and kind of deploys them out and does the marketing for it. And we've noticed that as the amount of different things that we were involved in, man, that brain space really got taken up.
It does. I never knew how many tabs I could have open at once until I started working for Ryan Centers. It's about 305.
Yes.
That's my max.
And it is too many.
It's too many. And I think you telling yourself to focus and narrow has helped my life tremendously because our brains are so intertwined in a lot of things of work-wise. So it's definitely... while one of the babies that had to be cut was mine, I'm excited to have that extra brain space now to know what else we can do and where we can make an impact instead of being the branch that's sucking from the tree. Yeah.
And what we kind of always talked about, like we talked about this, we have a amazing ministry and business in Ohana, and we launched Hannai Laveen, and if you could. We'll click the show notes and you can click the kind of some how we started Hannai and the story behind it and how we got it up and started. But one of the things that probably through the last 2 years is that we have been learning on the fly. And in a restaurant, coffee shop type business, I think learning on the fly and being restaurateurs, and it's a very expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah. And I can remember getting that first text from you or email or something. And it was like, let's think up coffee shop names. Cause the week before we opened Sky Zone and what's on next? And I'm like, coffee shop, what do you know about coffee? And you're like, well, I want a place to hang out and drink coffee and wine. And, and you describe the community and you describe the passion behind it, but we didn't know what we were doing.
Yes.
And so
Yeah. And we had a great partner at another coffee shop, but definitely kind of on the outside, not really in the trenches. And we always had this saying that everything is figure outable. And that is true. But what that quote in sayism doesn't do justice is sometimes the figure outable is very, very expensive.
It's expensive and it's slow. Like we went into it thinking our customer was Gen Z. Oh, they're going to come. They're going to have, a DJ brunch and they're going to have all this vibing. And, what we didn't know was, and it took us a year to figure out, was this was built by millennials for millennials. Why didn't we know millennials were our customer? Like, hello, no, 40-year-old mom just wants to sit and have her kid have a $1.99 kids meal and drink her coffee without a DJ screaming in their ear.
Because I think we had so many creatives in the space. So for those of you who don't know, Hannai, Hawaiian word for informal adoption or for chosen family. So we had a cause behind it and we employed youth in the foster care system. We still do that, just at a different location. And we also had coffee, wine, beer in the afternoon, and then we also had food.
And craft cocktails. Don't
and
forget
craft
that.
cocktails. We spent a whole several days creating a cocktail menu. Mm-hmm. See, those were the good old days.
That was.
Yes. When we weren't losing any money. The P&L didn't exist because we
were losing. We just didn't know we were losing.
Oh, yeah. And those are, and we kind of were trying to say, we're going to be this cool vibe spot. So when we first opened, we had, we would do these brunches.
DJ brunches. People would come in. They clearly weren't coming for that because they made it very clear on Google reviews the next day. Lots of bad reviews.
About how loud it was, right?
It was too loud. It was, they couldn't hear the ordering. It was chaos. Yes. And, and it
was crowded and there was, and our kitchen wasn't built for that.
No.
Yeah, people were coming in for Sunday brunch, but we're more of a coffee shop with food as an auxiliary product.
Yeah, it was one little oven back there. Like it wasn't a toast. It was a glorified air fryer toaster. Two of them.
Whoa. Too far. But yeah, it was like, and so then the ticket times were like 20 minutes, 30 minutes for a sandwich. Yeah. And you're like, all right, this is tough. But people were coming in for that brunch and we weren't able to deliver it. And then I'm like, all right, let's get a DJ and people would be dancing. No one wants to dance on Sunday morning.
No, nobody did. And also I think people were confused.
What are we?
They thought we were a restaurant. Clearly the community needed a restaurant space.
Yes.
It's deceiving. They might think it was a full massive kitchen in the back, but it was about a 6 foot wide hallway.
Yeah, that's true.
The deli tray setup thing. And it was not functioning for that. So.
Right. Because when we were building it, again, coffee, cocktails was the kind of the vision. And in order to have a full-on kitchen, you had to do a hood, which is like where you have like the fire suppression system. And but that means you have to go all the way up to the roof. And that was like a $40,000 upgrade. I'm like, oh, we don't need that.
Yeah, another lesson learned. You can have that. Number eight.
Yeah. Maybe you should have gotten a hood. Yes. Yeah. And so probably in the last year and a half, first off, before we talk about what I wanted Mandy here for is like I posted on my Instagram when we finally did the closure about a month ago about like 7 lessons we learned. Yeah. And I wanted to kind of share them and kind of do them justice and share them on the podcast. For those of you guys who may be thinking about going into a restaurant, a coffee shop, one, it's so amazing and a worthwhile effort. We'll probably still do it again. But what are some of the lessons learned? Because what I have come to terms with is like, I don't have to learn every lesson on my dime. And I can actually learn from other people's mistakes and people who are wiser than me and use those opportunities to like, all right, not make those same mistakes twice.
I don't even think it's anybody opening a coffee shop. It's anybody opening a business. I mean, you could relate any of this stuff to any small business that you're creating or brand you're creating. Yeah.
I think some of my, two of my most, before we talk about those, like maybe what is some of your favorite moments? I think one for me was during the governor's race, we got asked to host a private event for Carrie Lake.
Right.
And you told me.
They didn't even host. They wanted the space. Yeah.
They wanted the space. Yeah. And so we hosted the event. And
I told you what? Let's go back to where I told you what.
You may have said not to do this.
I might have, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, this is not a good idea. I'm like, you're fine. You don't know what you're talking about. And so we hosted it. I may have stood up there said a few words during the event and just said hello and greeted some people.
It's great to get your business in the middle of a polarizing governor's race.
Yes. And we got all of these hate messages on Yelp.
Social and Yelp and Google. And
yes. Yeah. I was on a governing board at one point. Even someone talked about it in a governing board meeting. I was like, holy moly, this is crazy. But then the next week we hosted a drag show.
Yeah, it was a drag brunch, getting that Gen Z vibe they wanted. Yeah.
So
makes sense.
I'm an equal opportunity offender, clearly.
Yeah, you really
so
are.
I could really just go on both ways and offend everyone. So that's a great way to grow a business. Offend both sides and be confused and get caught up in a political, ideological firestorm.
Well, and while she was also getting involved in her own drag race, it was just too much.
It was too much.
It was
so
too much.
stupid.
She had her own thing against drag queens, and then we did that, and it was
why?
I don't know.
That was the dumbest thing ever.
It was.
Yeah.
We just finally said yes to somebody that kept asking. So
yeah. Someone kept asking to do the show, and we needed revenue, and they're like, "Hey, this thing could bring in a lot of money."
Oh yeah, we tried everything. When we say we tried everything, we have literally tried everything.
And then one of our very last DJ brunches, I was there with my wife, and we were all just I don't know, we were having brunch or something. And I look over, and I'm on the patio, and I look over, and there's a person dancing to the music. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But they weren't actually in Hannai. They were a homeless lady who has just woken up and noticed the music going. She was vibing to that music. She was like interpretive dancing, very small shirt, letting us know that she was into it. Absolutely. And everyone is just like trying to drink their mimosas and watching this lady strung
free
out.
Entertainment. We didn't even know what we're getting into.
Yes.
I think that rolls perfectly into your lesson 1. Location.
Yes.
Yeah.
Location, lesson number 1 when opening up a coffee shop or a restaurant. Location matters.
Absolutely.
Location. We did not go into a space that was there in commercial real estate. There's like A centers, B centers, C centers. A centers are like in high intersections that are like high visibility, high income. They tend to attract the type of customer that you want. But those rents tend to be very premium rents.
Yeah.
And so your rent would have been very expensive. The place that we chose to open, Hannai, was a big space, 3,000 square feet. So everyone loved the space, cheaper rent, but very, very C center.
Not just a C center, but it's a C center you couldn't see from the road. So nobody knew we were there. Like we had residents that lived like a half a block away, and they had no clue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had our signs and our flags, and then they saw the word Hannai, which is like, what does that even word mean?
What is it? The coffee and cocktails and community was smaller on the sign. That needed to be bigger.
Yes.
There was minimal visibility.
Yes. So that location played an enormous role. Also, like, I don't necessarily know if Laveen was the wrong location for it because it had a good community, but definitely that intersection was not the good choice.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that intersection is like the pinnacle example of what Laveen is.
Yes.
So, you got better once we had better security, but nobody wants to sit outside in the evening and have a cocktail.
Yes.
While there's sirens going up and down the street, or, checking security footage and there's someone smoking a crack pipe under the really patio furniture. I mean, it may or may not have happened. Yes.
Or another time there was a homeless guy that one of our managers was working on his laptop, and they like reached in and grabbed the laptop and went running. I'm like,
oh yeah, just up until recently, there's always kicking homeless people out of from bothering customers and things like that, which I know is just it's not a Laveen thing. It's an issue in all of the valley, but yeah.
But you're trying to create a space that people want to come back to.
And we wanted that patio. We envisioned it as a great place for the community, and nobody could sit out there if you didn't feel safe. So,
so number 1, location. So if we were going to do it again, I would definitely spend triple the amount of time and being more patient to find the right location.
Absolutely.
And even in the communities, I think you could still find good rent, but maybe it would have been a different neighborhood or a different community. Yeah. We've been told to go to Scottsdale and go to Goodyear and other places that probably could have done really well, and the rents would have been reasonable. But yeah, so just in Laveen, there was not very many options. So that's one thing. I think probably one of the driving factors for us.
Yeah, take your time on the retail space for sure.
Yes. Yeah. All right, lesson number 1, location is vital.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lesson number 2 is learning that we've had is that keeping cost of goods and labor under control is really hard.
It's really hard, and I think we were a little bit set up for failure.
Okay. First off, explain what is cost of goods. What is labor? When we say cost of goods and labor.
So cost of goods is like all of the stuff we would buy. So, the bread for your sandwiches, the coffee beans, the cups they go in, all of those items to produce the product.
Okay.
And then your labor is your people working.
Okay.
Which is including like your cooks, your baristas, your managers, your managers, like it's everything. So,
and generally what they say in restaurants is like, it should be a third and a third.
Mm-hmm.
So a third, it should be labor.
Yeah.
And a third should be cost of goods.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, so go ahead. What set up for failure?
Well, we've just created the whole business plan in 2021.
Yes.
And then 2022 is when food increased like 10%. It was massive. We're opening and trying to find people to work, and we can't pay them what McDonald's is paying. Like at that point in 2022 in the spring, all the fast food restaurants were
like $20 an hour or something like that.
The sub shop across the street was like $20 an hour. McDonald's had $18 an hour. Yeah. So we were really struggling to find cooks. Mm-hmm. The cooks we did find we had to pay $20 an hour. It was not the business plan, how it was set up for that.
And how we designed the space, we weren't able to cross-train our staff to do multiple things.
No.
So you had a clear back of house and a clear front of house.
Yeah.
So your back of house were cooks that were only there to cook.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really make coffee or do a bartending very often.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can pay your brew crew or your baristas different because they're getting tipped out.
Yeah. So you get to pay a lower amount and then they get tipped out. And the community was really good at taking care of them. So that worked out well. They made good money, but then the food in the back was where our major, like the highest percentage of our cost of goods.
Yes.
And then on top of that, it was our highest percentage of labor. And we were having to pay as if they were actual like full cooks back there. But really it was like making
assembling
sandwiches and putting them in an oven, which still could be stressful and hard. I'm not devaluing that, but it was, you're having to pay a cook's like chef's wages almost for a sandwich making.
Yes. We're not getting chef like quality food.
No.
But you still have to pay that labor for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause that's what the market was asking for.
Yes.
So, 2022 was a hard year for that. And
our ebbs and flows it was so difficult. And I've talked to so many restaurateurs that it's so hard to know when you need to staff up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're mad rush and you got all these tickets and you don't want people waiting 20 minutes for food.
No.
But then you don't want to have 3 people sitting there when they're just cleaning and doing nothing.
Yeah. So the key to fixing that, what our GM ended up doing was she got everybody cross-trained to where they could do both and go work back and front, kept the labor down on there, cost of goods. You were
brilliant with this.
We ended up having to change the menu and eliminate a lot of stuff.
We were sitting at like 55% cost of goods. I mean, we were like, for those of you guys like getting to the bottom of the P&L, I mean, we're losing 10 grand a month, month over month over month.
That was a good month. Losing 10 grand was a good month.
And at first you assume to lose like some money as you are building up, but not 2 years in.
No.
And that was me self-funding month over month of month. And I'm like, all right, this is a great vision. We're going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. But then you're looking at the cost of goods and you're like, so you and Savannah like went
yeah, we had to
dive
like
into that.
Take out some people's favorites, which, when you have regulars and your business is built around regulars, that can sometimes be hard. But like eliminating salads that had like, 10 ingredients a salad that were then ended up getting waste, and the big charcuterie boards and things like that, just eliminating those things instead of raising prices for our customers who are already struggling as it was, just shifting the menu around and eliminating stuff really helped.
Yeah.
Narrowing our focus. Yes.
So she had these beautiful charcuterie boards. They were like $20, but it took probably 30 minutes of labor, right? Sometimes, or 15 minutes.
Yeah. If you wanted them to look nice, took a long time and a lot of prep work, and a lot of people didn't order them because they didn't want that higher price point. So
those were easy things to cut. I loved a good salad, but then you have like 5, 6 ingredients that was only for that salad. Mm-hmm. So what that means is it's not being used. It goes bad. That's waste. Waste ends up like you're just lighting money on fire at that point.
Well, and you can't compete with like the salad and go down the street that can sell them for $5.99. Like there's no competing with that.
Right.
So it was just, we're not the place for salads. You just accept that. And
so when it was, the moment you kind of came in charge of just running the whole operation, actually we saw this huge delta or this huge change in our cost of goods. Went from 50% to like 38%.
Yeah. And it was literally just changing the menu. It was focusing in on what you were wasting. And Savannah made a great list of everything we're wasting. We axed it. We said goodbye to some things, and that took care of it. Yeah.
And I think sometimes business owners may not want to. They are so tied to these sacred cows, and they love this item.
They love this Cobb salad.
They love a good Cobb salad. And sometimes you just gotta.
That was our main thing. Ryan's gonna be so pissed we're getting rid of the Cobb salad.
And surprisingly,
you didn't miss it, did you?
I didn't miss it.
You found a new favorite.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. The Hannai breakfast sandwich is just
there you go.
Killer. So yes, that was the second learning is keeping costs of goods and labor under control was really, really hard. Number 3 is that as a small business owner, you have to be involved in a new concept and a brand new business. You have to be involved.
Yeah.
And I learned this the hard way. Like when we were building out this concept and building out this vision of it, I had the margin and the kind of the life to be able to be in there. And I dreamed and visioned, all right, I'll go to be there in the mornings and I'll greet the guests and make sure everything goes well. Because it's when it's your baby, when it's your house, you'll notice when something's off.
Yeah.
You walk in, you're like, all right, hey, this is dirty, or this is not operationally sound, or hey, what's going on here? And you can demonstrate as the senior leader, as the owner, like, hey, this is how we do it. And what happened at the moment that it opened, Ohana, our main company, experiences tremendous unexpected growth. And that was, I took all of my energy and bandwidth to help keep that going and to focus on that, which was so critical that then I was unable to be around.
You were, and you got lucky, and why it kept surviving is Savannah took ownership of it.
Yes.
And she just
she made it hers.
She made it hers, and she took ownership of it. And the marketing team, gosh, you have to have somebody else in there also that if you can't be there, that, feels like deep pain when someone writes a bad review, or if somebody can't order the coffee because you don't have the right supplies that they love, that it really bothers them. You have to have somebody take full ownership of the building if you can't. But
right. And Savannah honestly was a godsend because she grieved over her staff and her kids and loved them as a mama bear. Knew every customer by name, gave them hugs. She would, every time I go there, hey, oh, do you know this person? And tells me their life story. I'm like, wow, you get it.
Yes. Yes, I get it.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's a deep, but that's a challenge. And then from when you're thinking of a new startup, most times when you're getting things going, the person who is the operator is usually the owner. So that money, that general manager's pay could be the owner's pay.
Yeah.
And so what was our situation is that I had to then outsource the management to a team who are so talented, but it costed more money than it would have been if I was able to do it myself.
Yeah, because the only way you're going to get somebody that has that type of ownership is somebody that is their career. It's not just a job to them. They take full pride in it and want it to be as good as you would want it to be.
Right.
And that's going to cost you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, and you and Savannah, you guys came up with the most brilliant, marketing ideas and events and
I took a scroll down social media past of Hannai, and I'm like, we actually tried everything.
Yes.
Banjo Bob was playing one night and karaoke.
We did live music, and we tried every type of live music.
Craft nights and kids days and dog adoptions, and that's where I got my dog from.
Yes. Isn't that a mistake?
It sure is.
So we had an adoption, a dog adoption day there, and all these people showed up. And the 3 dogs that were adopted were the staff. And when we say adopted, it was an adoption fee of $400. I'm like, what kind of adoption is this?
So we had to pay $600. They called it a Labradoodle. It's not a Labradoodle.
That thing has a long wispy tail. This thing is straight up mutt.
Oh, mine's cute and sweet, but just eats all the patio furniture. So
that's fun.
Yeah, it's great.
All right. So that's lesson number 3. We got to be involved. Lesson number 4 is you got to cut your losses sooner.
That's all you, because I could have just you kept paying and paying. So.
What we mean is cut your losses sooner is I was so dead set, hard-headed that this was going to work. And I was willing to just continue to fund something with hopes and dreams. And we made some changes, but reality was staring at us in the face.
Yeah, because you wanted to serve that mission. You saw what we were doing.
Yes.
You saw the impact. You saw the kids working.
Watching one of our work program kids get their first car, and another kid like standing up and DJing for an event for us. I mean, those are like the joys.
Yeah,
like those are intangibles, and like what is that worth? But as time has went on, I had so many people that were in my life that were way more business savvy than us and more about the numbers, that were saying, Ryan, like I have an accountant, like, so what do we do with this Hannai thing? What are you doing with this Hannai thing? And he was like, I felt like, man, you're so rude. Do you know how good this is?
He was, because I told him the same thing.
Yeah. What are we doing this time? But it was true. Like, like at what point do you say like, hey, this isn't going to turn. And if it does, it's going to take you 10 years to recoup it. And what in business is called a sunk cost. It's like something could be a great thing, but you've already spent that money. So sometimes in business, you keep investing more money, thinking you're going to get it back. But in reality, it's a sunk cost. It's already gone. Yeah. And I just had to kind of come to that acceptance stage. And I was said a year ago, before we end up closing, we came to that place. We're like, I don't think I can keep this going. And we all had a grieving party. We were all in our office, just like knowing that time has come. Yeah. And I said, all right, if I have to invest any more money into this business, then we have to close it. And we all were like, all right, this is our mission. We're going to keep it going. And then come to the end months ago, we had to keep adding money. Yeah. And it was just like.
No, and I think the best piece of advice you got in that process was when, somebody asked you, how much total have you invested into this of your own money? How much have you lost? And then asked you, how many kids have you served? And then divided that out. Yeah. And they're like, okay, what else could you have done for these kids for that amount of money? Like,
I'm talking like
how could you have made a bigger impact?
$600,000. Yeah.
So divide that by the kids, and what kind of impact could you have made besides, keeping a coffee shop hanging on? So, when I heard that, and I was just like, no, that's your answer right there. Like
there were so much other more impactful things we could have done with that money. Yeah. So cut your losses sooner.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm getting better at this, and I think there's wisdom to it, that passion is good, but wisdom is better. Passion is good to get you started, but it really for longevity and legacy, you need to have wisdom. And some of this part for me was not wise. And only I could say that. I mean, yeah.
Yes. I won't tell you anything, right?
This is another learning that we did. We developed our own brand, Hannai, came up with everything. So one of the learnings I had is like, building your own brand is way better.
Well, yeah, because that's your passion.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Was it wise?
You loved making the logo, designing the merch, that was your passion. Yeah. But while then getting handed a brand that had no recognition, people didn't know how to say the name, or they didn't know how to read the name. It was a big challenge.
It was.
Yeah.
And because you have if you drive anywhere, 99% of what you see is chains and franchises. And the reason is because they have brand recognition. Yeah. And they work. I own 2 franchises. I get it. I own one now. I sold one. But the brand recognition is like, it's easy to see like, oh, this is whatever this coffee shop is. We will never name those names.
Year we opened, they opened a Starbucks right across the street from us. And I was like, well, that's a bummer. Yeah. Because people just like what they already know. Right. So they Hannai coffee was 1,000 times better than Starbucks, but they wouldn't have known that because they're just used to what they know.
And people are creatures of habit, especially their coffee. And if it's not consistent and not easy. So, but I did love, like, I got so much pride out of what we built.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Seeing it in People magazine, seeing it on the Today Show. Like,
and it's yours. It's 100% unique. Yeah. It's yours. Like,
yes.
That's why I'm like, we're not parting with that Instagram handle. We're not getting rid of anything. And I will resurrect. It is not dead. So
that's right.
Yeah.
We're just doing an audible. So building a brand is definitely worth it, but you have to count the cost. I think of it, if you're a new business person and you're trying to go into the space and you're like, all right, I want to do maybe doing a franchise is a good idea. Yeah, because they had the systems and process. You get handed everything.
We had to create the playbooks. We had to create the builds. We had to create the menu, the processes. Mm-hmm. Like everything had to be done from scratch.
Oh, I do it the same way.
Yeah, because I did it all.
True. It looked great when it was done. Another learning. Find a Mandy. Good luck. Hey, fellow purpose-driven leaders. If you're loving what you're hearing, we need your help to keep spreading inspiration so others can unleash their purpose too. If you're finding value in our discussions about purpose, entrepreneurship, faith, and family, here's how you can support us. First off, hit that subscribe button right now to make sure you never miss an episode. By subscribing, you'll get notified every time we release a new podcast packed with wisdom and encouragement. Next, take a moment to share this episode with your friends, family, and followers. Whether it's a text message, a post, or a shout out, your recommendation helps us reach more people who are seeking inspiration on their journey. And finally, if you've been enjoying our podcast, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews not only motivate us to keep creating great content, but they also help others discover our show and join our purpose-driven community. So let's keep the momentum going. Subscribe, share, and review the Unleash Your Purpose podcast today, and together, let's make a positive impact on the world, one listener at a time. Now let's dive back into today's episode. All right, next one is for you. Number 6, don't take your team for granted.
Oh.
Wasn't this yours one? You were supposed to talk on
that was yours.
Oh, it was? Yes. We had the best rock stars. Yeah. Like Mandy was able to kind of like give an idea and a vision to, and then actually make the vision even better and execute it. And I remember going in the back of house and we had we're cooking. We get a rush, and guess who's bussing tables or cooking sandwiches? Mandy.
It was me. It was the day I went from a cook to a boss.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Everyone likes to, I always say I love going to work at Hannai. And she's like, you get to play restaurant. You don't have to actually work the restaurant.
You don't work the restaurant. You go off and you pretend to punch stuff in. Oh, okay. I can take your order.
Yes.
And you wanted, that day I became a boss. You kept insisting people had to open tabs, and it kept re-adding food to the back. Now, mind you, it's like our opening week. So we had no staff. So I was the cook.
I was the bartender that week
You were the bartender because you were kept wanting to open tabs instead of closing them out. And every time somebody ordered food on that tab, it re-add the food back to the kitchen screen. So, after my 10th thing that I double made, I kind of yelled at Ryan, gave him some choice words in my best Gordon Ramsay cook mode. And Ryan's face, I don't think he'd ever had anybody talk to him that way before.
No.
And you know what you then said? You said, yes, ma'am.
Yes. You know what? I avoid eye contact. I'll take all those items to go. Don't worry, I'll pay for them in the back end. And those were some learnings.
So then I brought Savannah in. It was actually a great day because after I yelled at you, I'm like, I can't do this. It will literally break me. It'll break our relationship because I was getting angry and I didn't have the patience to be a line cook. But it was the best decision because then we brought Savannah in as a cook to replace me. And then she just ended up growing from there. So
that was amazing.
Yeah. All that yelling was worth it.
Yes.
But even until then, you said treat them like family. So for instance, after Hannai closed, she had a whole barbecue for the staff and had them over for dinner. And they were all, our old managers, Josh was there and Adriana and Julissa and all the original people. And
that's so good.
They just sat and shared memories and talked about people. So it was really great. Yeah, they were a family for sure.
Yes, they knew they loved. And what always our biggest thing is if the manager and leader is treat your staff like family, and then they will treat their guests as their home.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what has happened.
Yeah.
And that it worked.
It worked. It worked. We treated it as our family because we just got our whole family working there. So
yes. My daughter did. All your kids.
Your kids, my niece, my nephew,
They made it work.
They made it work.
Yes, that's why our labor was so low.
Yes. So it was low some days, just voluntary employees.
Yes. We're just kidding, guys.
We would never do that.
And the last thing I would share is I would do it again. I would do it with the lessons learned, with less tolerance for the losses, but I would still do it again. Mission to employ foster kids aging out of the system is a worthy feat, and I will not stop. Every kid's life that was impacted was improved.
Absolutely. Yeah. I loved being able to like see, something that was just an idea. Mm-hmm. And even as sad as it was closing the doors on that idea, it was just a privilege to get to see it from start to finish.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like, we've had some national exposure. I've talked to countless other entrepreneurs that want to launch their own Hannai, and maybe not even call it Hannai, but just do something that is employing at-risk kids or employing the vulnerable. And I'm like, dude, that is such a win. Getting reached out by opening and the story of Hannai is not done. We still have our second location. And they're like, wait, you have another location? Yes, we have a location in City Hall of Peoria. The difference of that is fully owned by our nonprofit. And number two is there's no rent.
There's no rent. It's a partnership with the city. So we can, still teach these kids the skills they need, and also still teach them about labor costs and cost of goods, and maybe becoming and owning a business or managing one. But we have a lot more wiggle room. So, if they have to remake a coffee because they messed it up, we're not like going, oh my gosh, that was $1 down a drain or something. You'll be able to give them more hours and more leniency because of that partnership. So,
because coffee shops, restaurants, margins are so skinny, meaning that your profit margins can easily get like vanished if you're not really
just
careful on anything.
Just by rent and electric alone, you forget about cost of goods and labor. It's the operating expenses on top of that'll kill you.
And we just actually this morning we're walking this space one last time with the soon to be new tenants of the space who was actually one of our customers and has a nonprofit in a church. Yeah. And I believe that God had this prepared for them. And they are humbled, and we are so excited for them and to help support them. And they're going to be able to steward that and take it to the next level.
Yeah. They're going to make it their own.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I love is, and as we think for the future and our future Hannais, is that there needs to be a strong partnership kind of with a church or with like some kind of community tie-in.
Yeah.
Because with the margin so skinny, you have to have other ways to get revenue and other tangible support. So we're even now dreaming of new ventures for next year, a new Hannai, partnering with other churches and maybe having a thrift store around it. Yes. So Hannai Thrift.
Hannai,
or something.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there.
We're not there to the name yet. You've already got the merch designs in your head. I know it. You do.
I do.
Got the hats all figured out.
Yes.
The Hannai will live on. Like the mission will still live on. It'll still help the most vulnerable. Yes. It'll still be able to serve its purpose. And I think having that Peoria location and that partnership made this, it was still really hard. It made it much easier knowing that we could still keep doing the work.
That's right. That's right. So the work still lives on, many lessons learned. So, hey, thank you for going on this ride with me.
Oh,
you killed it.
It was,
we resurrected this bait.
It was an honor.
And we have many more bright days ahead of us. So thanks for coming on first podcast. Make sure, hey, if you got through it, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. You know it's the best podcast out there. So why don't you make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. But until next week, may you unleash your purpose to profit in business, faith, and life.
Thanks for joining us for the Unleash Your Purpose podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next week.